The first time the word came out of the boy's mouth, it fell like a stone into silence. One word, whispered, broken, and fragile, as if it had traveled a long, painful distance just to be heard. In a mansion filled with money, power, and noise, that single word was the loudest sound anyone had heard in years, and it changed everything. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that ordinary people can create, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that humanity still matters. The boy's name was Noah Whitmore, the only son of Jonathan Whitmore, a self-made millionaire known across the United States for his ruthless business success and emotional distance. Jonathan owned skyscrapers, private jets, and entire city blocks, but when it came to his own child, he stood helpless. Noah was 9 years old and diagnosed with autism at an early age. Specialists, therapists, private doctors from the best hospitals in the country had tried everything. Charts, schedules, expensive programs, and cutting-edge technology filled Noah's days, yet he remained locked in his own world. He did not hold conversations. He did not play with other children. He barely made eye contact. The only word he ever spoke was home, a word that came out rarely and without context, like an echo of something he could not explain. The mansion Noah lived in was beautiful but cold. Long hallways swallowed sound. The walls were decorated with expensive art that meant nothing to a child who found safety in patterns and silence. Jonathan watched his son from a distance, standing in doorways, sitting behind glass walls, afraid of doing the wrong thing. His wife, Grace, Noah's mother, had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, and her absence left a wound that money could not heal. Since then, Jonathan had thrown himself deeper into work, convincing himself that providing the best care possible was the same as being present. But late at night, when the house was quiet, he wondered if his son felt as alone as he did. Across town, in a small rented apartment near a closed-down factory, lived Daniel Brooks, a poor single father barely holding his life together. Daniel had once dreamed of being a music teacher, but life had taken a different turn. His wife had died in a car accident, leaving him with a 5-year-old daughter named Lily and a mountain of bills. Daniel worked odd jobs, cleaning offices, fixing fences, unloading trucks, anything that paid enough to keep the lights on. Music was the one thing he never let go of. Every night after Lily fell asleep, he sat by the window with an old guitar, playing soft songs that carried his grief and hope at the same time. Daniel believed music saved him. When words failed, melody spoke. When pain was too heavy, rhythm carried it. He sang to Lily every morning before school and every night before bed, simple songs about courage, love, and tomorrow. Lily believed her father's songs could fix anything, and in a way, they did, at least for them. Fate brought Daniel and Noah together in the most unlikely way. The Whitmore Foundation, a charity Jonathan funded to support children with special needs, was hosting a small community event. Jonathan rarely attended these events, but that day, something pulled him there. Volunteers were scarce, and Daniel, desperate for extra pay, signed up to help with setup and cleanup. He brought his guitar along, planning to play quietly during breaks. Noah sat on a bench at the edge of the garden, rocking slightly, his fingers tracing invisible lines in the air. The crowd noise overwhelmed him, and his therapist stood nearby, watching closely. Daniel noticed the boy immediately, not because he was rich or important, but because he recognized that distant look. He had seen it in Lily on nights when grief overwhelmed her, when she stared through walls as if searching for something lost. During a quiet moment, Daniel sat a few feet away and softly began to play his guitar. He did not speak. He did not look directly at the boy. He simply played a slow, gentle tune, the kind that feels like a warm blanket. The notes floated through the garden, cutting through the noise. Noah's rocking slowed. His fingers stopped moving. His head tilted just slightly. Jonathan noticed too. He had seen every reaction his son ever made, and this was different. Noah did not cover his ears. He did not retreat. He leaned in. Daniel continued, humming quietly, turning the melody into a simple song with repeated phrases, predictable and calm. Music, unlike words, did not demand, it invited. Noah's eyes focused on the guitar strings, watching them vibrate, feeling the rhythm settle inside him. When the song ended, the silence felt heavier than before. Daniel stood up, thinking he might have crossed a line. But then it happened. Noah's lips moved. His voice, barely audible, formed a sound. It was the same word he had spoken before, the only one anyone had ever heard, but this time it was different. It was clearer, stronger. Home. The garden froze. Jonathan felt his chest tighten, as if air had been pulled from his lungs. The therapist's eyes filled with tears. Daniel stood still, his hands shaking. Over the following weeks, Jonathan insisted Daniel be hired, not as a volunteer, but as part of Noah's support team. At first, Daniel resisted. He felt out of place in the mansion, surrounded by wealth he could not imagine. But he needed the money, and more than that, he felt something pull him toward the boy, a sense that this mattered. Every afternoon, Daniel came with his guitar. He did not push. He did not demand progress. He simply played. He sang the same song every day, slowly adding small variations, new words tied to simple emotions. Noah listened. Sometimes he tapped his fingers. Sometimes he hummed, barely noticeable. Progress was slow, but it was real. Jonathan watched from the background, learning something he had never understood before, that control and pressure could not force growth. Patience could, presence could, love could. Months passed, and something remarkable began to happen. Noah started vocalizing more sounds. Not full sentences, not even clear words, but tones, rhythms, attempts. Music had given him a bridge from his inner world to the outside one. Daniel's song became a ritual, a safe place. And one afternoon, as sunlight poured through the tall windows, Noah did the impossible. He sang. It was not perfect, it was not loud, but it was a melody, matched to Daniel's guitar, carrying words, simple words about feeling safe, about not being alone. Jonathan broke down in tears he had held back for years. In that moment, the mansion felt like a home for the first time since Grace's death. Daniel never saw himself as a hero. He was just a father who understood what it meant to lose, to struggle, and to hold on to hope when nothing made sense. He taught Jonathan something priceless, that love is not measured in money, but in time, humility, and the courage to show up. Before this story ends, take a moment to comment below and share where you're watching from and what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. As the seasons changed, Noah continued to grow in his own way. He still faced challenges. He still had hard days. But he had a voice now, not just a word, but a song. Jonathan changed too. He worked less. He listened more. He learned to sit beside his son instead of standing apart. Daniel used his earnings to move Lily into a better apartment and eventually returned to teaching music, helping other children who struggled to express themselves. The bond between the two families remained, not built on wealth, but on gratitude and shared humanity. Near the end of a small school performance, Noah stood on stage with other children. His hands trembled, the lights were bright, but when the music began, he sang. Not loudly, not perfectly, but bravely. Jonathan held his breath. Daniel smiled, tears streaming down his face. The audience stood in silence, then applause erupted like a wave. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that miracles often come from the most unexpected places, please like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who need hope tonight. Because sometimes all it takes is one song, sung by someone who cares, to open a door the world thought was locked forever.